Community building and trust building is a fundamental that will never go away. We know that we deliver value. We deliver the best program in the industry. Our success rate of our students is about 3 to 4 times higher than anyone else in the industry. If somebody does what we ask them to do, goes into one of our programs, they will succeed. It's not such a revolutionary thing. It's actually going back to the basics. Both the sales trainer and the coach teamed up, copied our entire coaching program, all our documents, everything, created a secret Facebook group, probably started poaching our customers, deviating them to that and selling them that program instead. And so they stole money from us that way. But then they were stupid enough to let my wife, Michelle, into their Facebook group. So our business, as a result of being open and inclusive, ended up organically growing without us even spending money on marketing.
Jack Bosch, it is great to see you, my friend. It has been entirely too long.
I agree. Zach, how are you doing?
I'm great. I feel like I open a lot of podcasts like that because this is my excuse to catch up with people I like and actually dig into questions that I don't get to ask them about, you being one of them. So I think that as you have gotten more and more successful, I've seen you less and less at events, which is where I originally met you probably, God, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, something like that at this point. You have done a ton of real estate investing. You have a large real estate education company. And now I see you sort of gallivanting the world. So tell me the current status of your real estate investments and your real estate business as a starting point, or your education business.
Yeah, that's correct. I actually disappeared from the entire event circle about 8 years ago. And when I realized that I was, after every event, I was coming home with so many good ideas that they just distracted me from what mattered instead of actually contributing to what mattered. So instead, what we did is we focused on one or two things to do them really, really well. And our business started growing 50 to 70% year after year for 5 years in a row. And yeah, but the status of our business is the following. We have basically multiple businesses. One of them is a real estate or land flipping business. So we buy and sell pieces of land. We find owners that no longer want their pieces of land. The nice part about land is that you get discounts way steeper than in the house world. So it's not uncommon to get a piece of land for 20, 30, 40 cents on the dollar. And then it's obviously makes wholesaling very, very easy because you don't have to fix and flip anything. You don't have to even inspect anything. You just simply turn around, market that thing up to 60 cents on the dollar and make $20,000, $30,000 in the process, and do that again and again. And my wife and I have done over 5,000 deals like that. Second kind of businesses, we have a coaching business that teaches people how to do what I just said, the land business. And we have our claim to fame is that we have already taken over 1,000 people to millionaire status with that business. With that strategy. So we are very, very proud of that. It's really kind of our legacy business. And the third business is that about 2009, when the market crashed back then, we started realizing America was for sale, and our land business continued to do really, really well during that time. And since then, and has always done really well. But when everyone's business crashed, ours did not, is my point. And we started taking money off the table and putting it into first single family, then multifamily. So now we have about close to $100 million of multifamily properties and a few of single family properties under management. Most of them, large part of that we own directly. Large part of that we are the general partners in the syndications, where we basically have allowed some people to come on board with us. But we are the controlling entity that owned the property, qualified for it, bought it, manages it, and brings it to success, and then resells it. And probably in the next 2 to 5 years, we'll sell these properties. And that has become its own business, its own 8-figure, close to 9-figure for that from asset value. But in terms of revenue, its own 8-figure business, because we now have a small team in place that we're constantly looking for deals. And when we find a good deal, which doesn't happen very often these days because there's not that many good deals out there. But when we find a good deal, we raise the money, put the deal together, and go buy it and then manage it.
Awesome. Now I have 15 follow-up questions.
Go ahead.
Let's start with a recap, though, which is land flipping personally was the starting point here. Learning how to buy land at an undervalued price. And then you use the term wholesaling, which is basically finding the person that actually wants to do something with the land. So you market, find a heavily discounted piece of land, you resell it to somebody that actually wants to invest and develop it. Perhaps they'll buy it still at a discount, but because you bought it so cheap, there's a margin there. You take that money, and that's a velocity game. So it's find a bunch of deals. You said you did 5,000 deals with your wife, which is wild. So I want to ask about that. The second is the coaching side of things. And the third is now multifamily and single family investment. Those are the three big categories, right?
Correct.
Cool. So I've got a bunch of questions independently, but I want to start with, you mentioned that you stopped going to live events for 8 years because you realized that you weren't implementing enough and you didn't need all of these ideas. You just needed to focus.
Right.
I think that that's a really, really good starting point in theme, because the most common thing that I see with sub $1 million entrepreneurs or just crossed a million are that they're just distracted. Like they're trying to do everything and they're trying to do everything right. And it's better to get something done than to have it done perfectly. Or more importantly, it's better to have something done than to not ever get it done perfectly.
Right. Exactly.
What were the things that you were doing to move from $1 million or a couple million to 8 figures that you were focusing on year in, year out?
Yeah, so the most important thing that was in our coaching business, we wanted to grow that part of the business from a smaller business into a larger business, and the most important thing is that we realized that we need to focus on fundamentals, and I think that's even today that's still very important, because a lot of people what they do is they take, for these conferences are fantastic, but what always wins the best presentation at the conference is the hottest gimmick that gets you. It's like a hack that gets you 3,000 leads in the next 30 days without spending any money. Great. Fantastic. You go do that lead, you get 5,000, 3,000 leads or whatever number I just said. And, but it's usually not a sustainable hack. It's a hack that works for 3 months and then you got to reinvent yourself. So what we realized at that time is that the fundamental of community building and trust building is a fundamental that will never go away. And on the contrary, in the world that we live in, trust is becoming less and less. Like people have less and less trust, because now with AI and things like that, you can fake everything also out there. So we wanted to build a community. So we basically started creating a Facebook group back then. Now, today, there's more people that do what we do, but we were one of the first ones who created the Facebook group where the actual expert, like you want to call it guru, whatever you want to call it, but the actual expert, me and Michelle, we're in there on a daily basis answering a question, because in the educational industry, a lot of it, particularly the real estate education or any kind of the make money industry, has a bad rap, because there's a bunch of people out there, and not all of them, of course, but there's enough to make me mad sometimes, is they're out there that are basically going out there and they're giving the minimum, charging the most, and delivering as little as possible. And they're truly afraid of their customers, because they're afraid from the point of view that they don't want to meet their customers. They don't want their customers to talk to each other, because if they're not delivering good work and a good program, what are these customers are going to say to each other? They're going to be like, yeah, this sucks. So yes, that's right. This sucks. And all of a sudden they gang up together, and all of a sudden they have like all this negativity coming your way, and they don't want that. So Facebook at the beginning, like about 8 years ago, there was almost no group run by any kind of educator where you literally where you invite your customers to come in together. You invite them to join experiences together. You invite them to ask questions. Where you answer questions, where you build a true community. We were one of the first ones that did that, because everyone else, again, was trying to prevent people from doing that. They were hiding from their customers. Well, we simply do that because we know that we deliver value. We deliver the best program in the industry. We know that our success rate of our students is about 3 to 4 times higher than anyone else in the industry. In other words, I can honestly say that if somebody does what we ask them to do, goes into one of our program and really does what we ask them to do, they will succeed. Because we're going to bend over backwards to help them to succeed. And many people can't say that. So I have no problem getting everyone into a group. And if somebody complains about something, I want them to have that place to complain, so we can go in there. It's like, so what's going on? Why are you not succeeding? What's happening? I want to be able to dive in. I want to be able to publicly solve his or her problem right there, and so on. And by doing that, you're building even more trust. And by
Yeah.
building the trust, automatically people are like, dude, these guys are different. These guys are like, they're openly sharing and they're helping and thing. I want to hire them. So our business, as a result of being open and inclusive, ended up organically growing without us even ending spending money on marketing.
Do you have a budget for marketing now?
Yes, now we spend $1 million a year in marketing, but we also now five times larger than we were at that time. So that method allowed us to grow into the mid seven figures, and then from there up, we added advertising to it. But the same strategy is being applied today. Our groups are open groups. People are asking questions. People are helping each other. I'm in there on a daily basis. I'm doing weekly lives in the group, all for free, just to share. And now other people in the industry are doing this also and doing this very, very successfully. And so on. That's really, so it's not a rocket science. We just basically went back to the basics and said, like, how cool would it be if we actually take care of the customers that want to be taken care of and that actually want to trust us? Well, it's not such a revolutionary thing. It's actually going back to the basics.
Yeah, well, I like the idea of going back to the basics in general. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to kind of double click on this, because I see a ton of businesses, and you and I have personal friends in your space, in the real estate education space, that we've known for a decade, and they keep doing the new thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a certain group of friends that have accelerated significantly in that space and went from having a small business to having a very large business. And then we have others that have changed paths a bunch of times and kind of tried the new gimmick, and it might work for a little while and then it doesn't. And they're kind of chasing this thing. Community building, you mentioned, to be one of the fundamentals. And I think that, do you think that that's specific to real estate education, or do you think that applies to other spaces as well?
Applies to every space, I think. Every space that has customers, that the customers want to have. I mean, that's why you find this entire thing, like forums that came up back in the days, or now there's all these different websites where people can ask each other about personal experience and help each other. It's like YouTube, like you want to figure out anything you want to figure out, you go on YouTube and there's a tutorial for it that helps you figuring out. People want other people's opinion. People want to be part of a community. People want to be part of anything that's something that shows them that they're not alone. Because also nobody, like, it's a simple sales kind of thing too. Nobody wants to be first to buy anything. I don't know if you've seen that video on YouTube where this guy's like, they're on an open air festival and this guy's on this hill and he's dancing really wildly, like really weirdly on his own. And everyone looks at him as like, weirdo. And soon enough, one person joins in. Then two more people join him. The moment it hits 3 or 4 people, the entire thing flips and it becomes from weirdo to, oh my God, they're creating a movement here and I'm being left out. And within, I think, a total of 3 minutes, it goes from one guy dancing to 300 dancing and 50 being left out on the side, feeling weird because they're not part of it. And in essence, I think that's true for anything. That's true for music. That's true for anything. We're human beings, and human beings like to be part of something where they feel good about it. And community is important for that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I've seen that particular video as a video, as a meme, tied to a whole bunch of different lessons. You know, don't be afraid to be the first. Sort of whole bunch of different lessons. But in this case, one of the points being made is third-party validation, right? So when you think about it from a marketing perspective, it's just like having testimonials on the site. If you have an active community, it shows that there's third-party validation of people actually using your product or service, no matter what that product or service is.
Yeah, exactly right. And they're doing that on a daily basis. I mean, it has happened that somebody does post something critical because we're not immune to something critical. We make mistakes and things like that. And then by the time that I even see it and have a chance to answer, there's already 7 existing customers came and answered it and can basically say like, hey, this is not typical. They're usually amazing. They're reach out over here, call them this and that, or just solve the person's problem, and or just basically rebutted it. Also, is like, no, this is not true. I've done X, Y, Z, and I've had this experience. So it's like your audience, if they feel truly part of a value community, actually will come to your rescue and will come then and help you if somebody is really saying something mean about you.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So when I think about that and applying that to other businesses like mine, like Easy Pay Direct, we don't have a community tied to Easy Pay Direct, but we have thousands of customers, clients that use Easy Pay Direct. And so the reviews that we see, we have a phenomenal online reputation with tons of positive reviews, but with scale, you end up with people that have bad experiences.
Sure.
Our default is for our team to respond, but it would be interesting to encourage a mechanism where other clients respond for you. And there are certainly ways to facilitate that, whether you have a closed community or it's just open on every review site in the world. That gets my brain going. That's great.
There you go. Yeah, think about it. Like there's like ambassador programs that you have some of the customers. I mean, we have been working with you guys for what, 10 years? And we have had the best experience with you guys than with anyone else, because anytime something comes up, I mean, you guys either give us the answer quickly or fix it quickly or have a solution for it quickly, and it's been very, very good. So
love hearing that. So what you're saying is anytime I see a bad review online, just call you and have you respond to it?
I'm sure, yes, I would be happy to. But the point is that there's probably another 100 people like me out there in your customer circle or more that would be willing to do that. So yes, I think there's something to be said about that. And again, the power, like I always say, like I talk about how great our land flipping is and how it's like virtual land flipping, virtual real estate, because I mean, I haven't seen the last piece of land that I've flipped that I've seen. I mean, I've flipped land all the time, but the last piece that I've actually seen was 2007. So I haven't seen any of the lands in 2007. It's 100% virtual. We have people in Europe doing this. But if I say that, what people hear is like, oh, Jack just wants to sell me something. Mm-hmm. If somebody comes from left field and says like, hey, I got his program, I went to his thing, I'm making six figures, multiple six figures now, this is legit, that person has nothing to gain from saying that. So it's perceived as much more trustworthy than if I say that. Even though I have all the numbers and all the evidence, I know exactly who's doing what, and I can scream that from the rooftops, people always will look at me as like, yeah, Jack, I understand, but you just want to sell me something.
How do you think about launching something like that? Because, and I think I've got ideas in my head when I said I've got all these ideas that are connected to this. I think about the fundamentals behind that, which is third-party validation. To your point just now, we can say, hey, product and service is this, it's great, but it's all coming through a sales lens, as opposed to hearing it from a valid third party that's used the service. So now you have this big community and body of proof. If you're in the mid seven figures and you don't have a community built, how do you start that flywheel spinning?
I mean, we just simply set up a Facebook group, and then we named it in a way that people could actually find it. So ours is, we're about to rename it now, but it's simply called Land Profit Generator Real Estate Investing Group. So we added the word real estate investing to it because people search for real estate investing, so it comes up. Because the thing is always, I say, nobody ever wakes up and wants to flip land. Like nobody actually comes up one day is like, I just had this epiphany by the day, a download from God. I need to become a land flipper. It's not something people wake up with. People wake up with saying like,
oh, what it is.
they don't even know what it is. So they see like, oh my God, I saw something on HGTV. I wanted to become a fix and flipper, right? I wanted to be a wholesaler. Those kind of things. These concepts are well known in the house space, but in the land space, it's not. So we needed to do a little extra to have people that don't necessarily know what we do find us. And then we also know that our strategy requires a little bit more education because, again, most people still to this day don't know what land flipping actually is. It's same as house wholesaling, just without the house. Therefore, with no tenants, toilets, termites, no complexities, and none of the other things. So it's a simpler way of doing the same thing with the same or better profits and much less competition. So that takes usually a little bit to explain. So we created that group, and then we simply, as we as I went speaking, as I went on podcasts, I was like, hey, we got this group, we got this group. And so people just came over, and this group has now over 20,000 people on it. And that is organic. We never ran advertising to it. We have a second group with over 60,000 people that we're actually about to shut down, and then actually ask those 60,000 people to come over, because the 60,000 people group is a group that we groom from paid advertising. And the activity and the community in that group is by far not as well as in the organic group. So organic is really a great way of doing it, and then just add lots of value to it. Go live there. At the beginning, I think I probably went live 3 times a week, and just like sharing little content, little nuggets, little things, and people's like, "Whoa, this is really cool. This is really good." And then over time, when we then do a webinar, we just put something in there. So like, hey, we got a webinar tonight. We're going to share some more details on how that works. And then people don't feel like they're being sold, but it's a value exchange. Those who are interested in learning more will then go click on that link, attend the webinar, and therefore we have their permission to actually make an offer to them. And those who don't, they just stay in the group and consume free information. And this is totally fine.
So, interesting thing that I think I just heard you say, you've got two groups. One you grew organically, and the other one has been all grown by paid ads, right? Yeah. Okay. So, and the paid one has less engagement than the organic one, right? But your current plan is to take the paid one and tell them to all go to the organic one.
For those who want to go, want to continue to be part of our community, go to the organic one. And those who don't, bye-bye. We're gonna shut down the group in like 30 days.
I love that. So one of the things that occurred to me, and I don't know if you have any data on this or but I would think that Facebook would favor engagement in the organic group and push it out more, because they can see that people got there organically versus paid. Yes. So if you take the paid group and they all organically go to the organic group, you probably are going to just fundamentally get more engagement in that group anyway.
Absolutely. I would agree. Yes, that's our expectation too.
That's super interesting. That's a good lesson for everybody too. Okay, so I do want to talk about the real estate side of things, but sure. I talk so often about real estate, and it's endlessly interesting to me. And I want to dig into some of the details because it's a huge chunk of your world. But I want to go back to these kind of the elements around what grew the business and what you were focused on. The core is community. What were the other things that you had to keep cleaning up and keep going at over and over and over again to get to the multi eight figure plus space?
So the other thing we did, and I never wanted that. I was like, there seems to be a pattern. I was the one that resisting the change to a degree. But Michelle, my wife, and one of our team members, they're like, no, we got to do this. Up until we were about a $3 or $4 million company on the coaching side of things, we never had a sales team. So it was basically, we had a few live events a year that we did where we kind of showed up somewhere, we like planned something. We're usually 3 live events a year. And so we would sell tickets in the group, and I would speak a few times at local real estate investor or real estate investor associations around the country, or webinars and things like that, to other also educators. And with that, we sold our home study course. And then from the home study course, we then went got people to the live event. And at the live event, we would sell coaching. And for that, we would have a couple of salespeople for the day just to help that experience with that transaction kind of, and get somebody to the closing table and so on. But other than that, we didn't have any sales team. The addition of a sales team made a big difference. But again, in the spirit of community, what we chose to do was to really like the typical, I want to say like Utah sales floor based. I mean, those days are over. I don't know if they still exist, but there used to be a time when there's a lot of like sales floors with like 500 people, and they would slam you into, you would come from some random ad, haven't spent $1 with them yet. And they would get you in a call, and they tried to sell you into a $25,000 or $50,000 coaching program. And with all kinds of the hardest negotiation tricks ever. I gutturally always said, I don't want to ever have that relationship with our customers. It goes against everything I feel we should have. Thus the community, the relationship. I think that if you build a relationship of value where you show that you're the real deal and that your stuff actually works, and that you have a team of people that provide accountability that would help, and they get to, over time, they get to know those people and they get to see all this background, that people automatically going to be like, yeah, how do I get in there? And now it's a nice sales conversation where you meet their needs and you tell them, listen, these are the three options we have. If you really want to do something big, I would suggest this. Otherwise, if you cannot do that, I was this or that. And it's a nice conversation. So we hired a sales team, but we trained the sales team to be in the concept of social selling. And social selling really means relationship selling, which means build a relationship with them, add value first. Like we also, that's our sales team. We all trained them in land flipping. Pretty much almost all our sales team today does part-time land flipping themselves, so that they're not just some random off the wall salesperson that slams you into something, but they can actually answer questions about deals. They can answer questions about how much work it is to do a deal. They are basically experts in the method, and they also have a capability of that the salesperson needs to have.
The educational space, you've pointed out a couple things that you don't like about it, and the format of the educational model is similar across the board, right? And you outline some of the elements of that, which is a course to maybe a live event to a high ticket coaching package. And the mechanism for that is some sales team to do that on the back end. The differentiator that I think is particularly relevant, and we could talk about the specific model around the challenge model and how that works. But I think one of the differentiators that people can take to any industry is the idea of highly trained in your product salespeople, and people feel the difference. So, one of the things that people like about Easy Pay Direct, yourself included, is that when you call, we can resolve issues very quickly because our team is incredibly well trained. And we are in a space where 95% of the industry has no idea what they're doing. And
Right.
they count on it all just working. And unfortunately, life doesn't just work and business doesn't just work. But if you have a well-run company and you have highly trained people, you can give your clients or customers the experience of it just working. And when it doesn't, getting it resolved very quickly. How did you find the salespeople to sell for the sales team? Did you pull them from your customer base, or what did that look like for you?
So first, trial and error. First, we made some mistakes. First, we brought in an outside. We never considered one of these large sales floors, even though we get pitched on those all the time. For the same reason that I don't want somebody to pick up the phone and sell like a nutritional program in one moment, then my real estate program the next day, and then something completely different the next day. That's just not what I want. I want them to be experts. Second thing is we finally then found a guy that had some real estate experience, not necessarily land, but at least real estate investing experience. And we brought him on, and then he learned our method. We gave him access to our system. He started doing some land deals. And at the beginning, obviously, he was selling without having actual land experience. But then he developed that over time, and then he brought a couple of extra people on. That ended up not working out because of some fraud issues that were going on in the background, that some of the team members around him actually copied our stuff and sold them behind our back, and we had to fire the entire team. But then we brought in, we went into our one came to a personal relationship, and she's now our VP of sales, and she's fantastic. And her husband is now, she immediately realized like, oh, wow, this is actually a really great strategy. Because once you see the student success rates and you see people pulling in $50,000, $100,000, $20,000 checks left and right, working from home, you're like, I think I need to do this too. So very quickly, we trained them on it, but then very quickly, she started and her husband started doing deals. Then the other ones, we pulled several from our customer base. We just put it out there. Hey, looking for a salesperson, and then people. One of our top sales guy, he applied for it, and we hired him, and both of them have been with us now for since early 2020. So 2021, 23, 24, like going on their fifth year almost here, and doing really, really fantastic.
I dig that. And this all plays back to the theme of community, right? Which is that because you have a strong community, it was easier for you to tap into it for these other things. To apply it to almost any business, everybody hears the advice of survey your customers, find out what your customers want, ask them. the number of entrepreneurs that actually do it is surprisingly and disturbingly low. But it's a good reminder that you can both do that about your product and also to try to find new people for the team.
Yeah. I mean, in our entire coaching, we have a group of 14 coaches. Every single one of them went through our coaching program. Every single one of them afterwards quit their job, is doing full-time land flipping now, and now gives part-time back to the community by coaching, by being a coach in our organization. And even there, we retrain them again in the coaching methods and things like that. And they're now bringing the next generation up there. I don't even coach anymore. I run a coaching company. I stopped coaching in 2020 myself, and since then our coaches are coaching everyone, and our success rate is off the chain. Is basically I almost want to say like every person that truly does what we ask them to do and sticks with it and stays plugged in eventually ultimately has success. So it's a great claim to it. Like it's a bold claim here, but it's true. Now, some people take longer. Our coaching program is a year long. Some people get their first deal in 3 weeks. Some people take 6 months to get their first deal. But the point is, we're working with them, and as long as the people continue to plug in with us, we're going to go figure it out what is wrong, what they're doing wrong, what they need to tweak in order to get them to their first deals. And again, it comes around. So meaning all our coaches come from our community.
Well, I'm not the FTC, and I'm certainly sure that if you put that up as an ad, we might have some issues with claims. But
That's right.
I love.
But we actually track our success rate, and we basically said, like I was saying, do we have a 100% success rate? No, but it's because some people just simply don't do what we ask them to do. And some people just after a while they're like they like drop off for whatever reason, or they just like disappear and so on. But of the people that stay plugged in, we get them to success.
So you mean if people actually do the work, then they produce something at the end?
Imagine, right? Imagine that.
Shocking. Yeah, right. I don't want to talk about the FTC because it's so irritating how they handle everything. But I do want to click on this fraud element that you mentioned. So almost all ultra successful entrepreneurs that I know have run into some or many horrific instances, whether it's fraud or it's, an employee or it's a business partner or something that on your way up, if that had happened at like, $500,000 in revenue or $1 million or $2 million, it might crush the whole business, but they're almost inevitable. So can you tell me about this person you hired and what happened with that and what that fraud issue was?
Yeah, absolutely. So I won't name names, but anyone can hit me up personally if they want to know. But the bottom line is that we had a coach that, and we had our sales team had a sales trainer whose name is actually known in our community, and I think he's pitching now multifamily kind of stuff. And both the sales trainer and the coach teamed up, copied our entire coaching program, all our documents, everything, created a secret Facebook group, and then started. I mean, I haven't really gotten evidence of it, fully proof of it. Probably started poaching our customers, deviating them to that, and selling them that program instead. We do have actually a couple of proof that people say like, yes, we came to you to learn from you, but they got us over here and they sold us that. And so they stole money from us that way, stole our intellectual property, and basically created the exact identical program, just sold it a little bit cheaper. But then they were stupid enough to let my wife, Michelle, into their Facebook group. Like, how they must have had a VA that just let her in. She's like sometimes a squirrel. She moves around, looks around, and she found this. She's like, what is that? And she found a video by this guy, and then clicked on it, and that invited her to the Facebook group. She requested to join in her full name, and it was granted. Wow. And then she saw all the stuff that they have been doing in there, and obviously that we had to kick both of them out. And then unfortunately, our sales team, who was the guy was a partner with the head of the sales team on the sales. It was an outside sales company, but they pretty much sold only for us. I've confronted the head of the sales team and says like, did you know about this? And he's like, no, I had no idea. This is all new. It's like, okay, I need you to put this in writing. And he's like, I can't do that. He's like, well, then you're fired too. Right. So basically, because if he's not willing to put it in writing that he didn't know about it, then he was lying to me that he knew about it. And if he knew about it, he's part of the bad guys, and therefore he needs to go. So he basically had to fire an entire sales team, their sales coach, and one of our coach, and the second one left afterwards. The funny thing is they teamed up separately, and they're now offering a land program themselves, which I hope nobody joins, because again, you're just dealing with a bunch of crooks. And so that's what it is. It was heartbreaking from the point of view that we were in the middle of a launch when we discovered this. So
Yeah.
from a business point of view, what do you do in that moment? You're in the middle of a launch where you're about to, like, we put a lot of effort in there, a lot of marketing. You put $100,000 worth of advertising into this. You're about to really bring up this product in a big way and in this program, and if you kick everyone out, what do? You got nobody. So we basically needed to, for the sake of the success of our company and the survival of our company, we needed to eat that frog for a moment, be quiet about it. In the background, we then went, it's like over about a 4-week period. We knew by this date, all the sales are going to be done. Everything's over. By this date, we can basically blow this up. But up until that, we then started recruiting. We started recruiting, replacing, building up a replacement sales team. And then we confronted everyone and had to fire them. But the nice part is the new sales team within 6 weeks were doing substantially better than the old one. So it was a blessing in disguise, if you want to call it. It was truly a blessing in disguise. And that's why I found all these things. Yes, it is sad that people steal from you. Some other times a lady stole $30,000 from us, a really criminal energy. Then we fired her. She went to another company. She stole $300,000 from them. And then she went to prison for 6 years. So it's not the first time. We've been stolen from at least twice. But in aftermath, if you look at it, it's almost always a blessing in disguise, because the way you regroup afterwards and the way you restructure and the way the things you put in place afterwards actually have gotten us further than we would have gone if we would just not done anything.
Yeah, I think often you don't learn the lessons until there's enough pain to force you to learn them.
That's true.
The other thing that I really like about that story is as an entrepreneur, your emotional control in the most challenging moments is the differentiator between whether something breaks you or you end up with a good result. Yeah. And I like to look at, I like to say I don't believe in altruism. I might do something that is really good for another party, but ultimately a big part of that is that I know it's ultimately going to be good for me too, right? I'm looking for the win-win, not because I think I'm the best human in the world and everybody should win, but because pragmatically, the right thing to do for me to get the furthest is to also help other people in the exchange and have a good exchange. So being in the middle of a bad situation and recognizing the potential fraud and saying, okay, wait, I could blow this whole thing up right now, or I could get a grip on my emotion and realize that pragmatically, it makes the most sense to let them keep operating now, get through the launch, build this thing on the back end to make the transition afterwards.
Right.
I think that lesson applies to a ton of different things.
Yeah. It wasn't easy to have been meetings and looking the guy in the eye that now is stealing from you without being able to say anything right there and then. But yeah, it's a lesson in building stamina, building grit, and just building self-control too.
Okay, this is the interruption where I'm supposed to take money and let somebody else advertise on the podcast, but I don't really want to do that. So I'm going to remind you that I also own EasyPayDirect.com. And if you're a business that's accepting credit cards or needs to, beyond the fact that we can do a rate review to save you money, beyond the fact that we give you dedicated account reps, world-class customer service, world-class technology, and can actually optimize the way you accept payments online, you should understand why we have thousands of people a year come to us off of platforms like Stripe or PayPal and why they prefer EasyPayDirect. you can check us out at epd.com/BAM. That's epd.com/BAM.
The other game that I like to play is, how am I responsible for the outcome that I'm really dissatisfied with right now? So in the scheme of having this person in the company that ultimately ripped off the product, had fraudulent behavior, and created this ripple effect, what could you have done differently to avoid that in the first place?
So when the other person, I said, like, I threw it in as a half sentence, somebody else stole $30,000 from us. When that person did it, I was very, very clear that we basically made was it like we said, like, make the fox the gardener or something like that, whatever they say that. Basically, we put the fox in charge of the chickens, and that's obviously way too much temptation. So we simply did not have enough checks and balances in place, and which gave a lot of temptation to that person, and therefore that person was able to hide $30,000 over a year of theft. In this other case right now, I've asked myself that question many, many times, and I it's the first time that I really just can't come up with an answer, because everyone signed a non-compete, everyone signed an intellectual property agreement, everyone signed. We had proper attorneys create everything for the right documents for everyone involved. Everyone was clear that this is our IP. Everyone was clear. Everyone was compensated really well. Everyone was made. They wanted more involvement. We gave them more involvement and things like that. And yet somehow just some criminal energy thought like it would be the better idea to just steal from us. So in this particular case, I cannot think of what I could have done different, or what I would have done different. Just choice of picking the wrong people, the wrong character. And that's probably it. Like, that head of sales and we were not best friends, but we were like in a relationship. I was like, hey, you're doing well. Okay. But we clashed every once in a while. And probably the one thing is I should have just fired him years earlier, and that would have all never happened. And really should have built my, the internal sales team much earlier. That's probably the number one thing, but that has nothing to do with them eventually defrauding me. That's just something well, it has, of course, but it's more something of like, I should have followed my gut that this is not a 100% core values and cultural alignment with this person. So therefore, that relationship should have been severed early on. But an entire core value kind of thing, which is something that now I have literally here, our core values at any time, is something that we only developed around that time when all of that happened anyway. So we weren't a core values driven company at that time. But once we became clear that we were a core values driven company, it was clear that that relationship wouldn't last anyway. And in that moment, we found out about that all at the same time. So it's not necessarily a surprise. So I'm speaking myself into an argument here, but there's nothing it was just pure criminal energy.
Yeah.
But
I think you answered the question.
Today I would pick different people for the role in the first place.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And I love hearing you navigate the thought process of that whole thing, because that's what it takes, right? And frequently when you verbalize those things, or when you're pushed to do so, you come up with a new answer. Yeah. I like to say that to basically everybody on the team, all new employees, all prospective employees at Easy Pay Direct, my intention is to hire and fire based on core values and KPIs. KPIs speak for themselves. You're doing the job up to the measurements that we set, or you're not, and that's very clear. And then you are in or out of alignment with the core values. And my job is not to get you to adopt our core values. My job is to find the people that already live the values that are similar to how we operate, right? And one of them would be not stealing shit from us.
That's right.
Probably.
That's right.
I love that. Well, speaking of core values, so you've got big real estate portfolio, big real estate land flipping company, and then the education company. So now you've done this a couple different times, a couple different ways in different spaces. But core values are an interesting one, because I think that from a business perspective, all new entrepreneurs are taught, hey, it's really important that you have core values and a mission statement, and people write them and they hang them on the wall or some shit. And then there are other people that seem to actually live in this lens of owning them, having them, and them being like part of the fiber of the company. Do you think it's important for a brand new business to have core values, or do you think it makes more sense to establish them later in the company's life?
No, establish them up front, because you're the owner of the company and it's your core values. It's not somebody else's. So you need to really get and it took us 6 months to get to still ours. But because you go layer by layer by layer, like everyone puts like something like excellence out there. Like, what does that mean? Like being integrity. Integrity means absolutely nothing. But what does it really mean to you? Or ours, we use the word integrity, but we use it embody integrity. So it's like what that, and then there's a definition underneath it that basically says, and I can read it to you, basically says, we believe in honest, authentic, open relationships through communication in all our interactions with our team, clients, and partners. So in other words, means integrity means speak the truth, and speak the truth in front of somebody, not behind their back. That's out of integrity. Like gossip, if I will never say anything to somebody about somebody that I wouldn't say to that person directly. Or if I say something in a team about somebody, it's like, by the way, guys, I already talked to that person about that. They know that I think about that way. So this is not gossip. So that everyone knows that I'm not talking bad behind somebody's back or positive behind somebody's back. I will do this is like an open, honest, clear communication, because the simplest way to do business is by simply telling the truth and being open about it. You need to find out, I mean, everyone needs to find out what their true core values are. And then you get to put the team around you that resonates with those. And there's no more fun team around you than that. And if you have a bunch of people that you can rely on that jive on the exact same core values that you do, now you got a power team that goes somewhere. And then your growth is going to be so much faster than if you get a bunch of mercenaries in that just do stuff for the money, but otherwise don't care. And at the end, once you build something, you're like, you hate it because you built something with a bunch of people that you have nothing in common with.
I love that. I also think that the point you brought up is really good, which is if you don't articulate and define what that value means, you have a huge window open for people to interpret that differently than how you do. And it's very easy to get misaligned if you don't talk about what it means to have integrity or what it means to have open, effective communication. And so citing those examples on the front end, I think has served us very well internally.
Yeah. And then what we do is we have, for example, just to one add to that is when we are a virtual company. So our team members are spread all around the world. And so when we do a team meeting, like an all hands meeting, which we do on a regular basis, then at least like every third team meeting or so, like we do like 1 or 2 a month. So every third team meeting, I'm bringing the core values to me. I'm making sure we're reading them, and I'm making sure we're highlighting one of the core values items and really exemplifying, bring up an example, highlight somebody in the team that had lived that core value, applauding for that, celebrating that person for living that core value, and really showing the team that we're paying attention to them, that they're not just words on the wall. And I think that matters over time.
That's a huge deal. We do an all hands meeting once a week. And one of the things that we do is have everybody on the team have an open forum for them to nominate their team members for a specific core value and then explain what the value was that they demonstrated and how.
Wonderful.
And we give out a gift card once a week for whoever gets nominated the most.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and that's a very fun way to keep it present. But over time, we have also thought about how do we integrate those into every other part of everything. So from onboarding to training to ongoing training to the weekly meetings to the annual event, we want it in front and center all the time. And it's interesting because, and I think marketers are best at this, but you can weave a core value into almost all lessons if it's top of mind for you. But it has to be something that you're talking about all the time to be able to pull out or extract that lesson and talk through that lens. Say, hey, this thing is off, not because I didn't like it, not because it's wrong, but because you can see that this doesn't align with this core value, right? So it's not that what you did is bad, but you can see that you weren't communicating openly or effectively. Open, effective communication is one of our core values. Yeah, but I think that goes back to your point, which is really good, which is clearly identify what those things are. Okay, so I want to talk real estate a little bit, because you've got land flipping, and then you have the single and multifamily portfolio. So you're teaching people land flipping, but you personally are investing quite a bit in single and multifamily now. So first and foremost, I want to talk about, well, why? Why are you, and are you still flipping land personally? And what space do those two different types of investing serve for you?
2013, I wrote a book called Forever Cash. And that book lays out our wealth philosophy. And the wealth philosophy is very simple. I can summarize it in like 3 sentences. And that is basically that what you want to do in life, if you want to build up a cash machine that produces a lot of cash, and most people, you have only their job for that, and the job just pays enough money to survive at their current lifestyle, but not to have a whole bunch of excess money. So you got to go beyond that. You got to build something that creates a ton of money. For us, that's land flipping. Right? Our coaching business sometimes is profitable, sometimes it's just break even, sometimes we lose money on it. It's more like our legacy kind of game. And we get some deals from it sometimes too. Like there's some larger deals we're participating in it with our more advanced students. But most of the deals, most of the thing is like it's not as profitable as people think it is. But the point is, it's something that we do to put a dent into the universe, change people's lives, and so on. But with that said, the land business is our cash machine, and yes, we still do active land deals. The coaching business sometimes is profitable, so it adds some to it. And then what we do is basically we take that money and we have a cash machine, and we take that money off the table and put it into something else that is legacy wealth. And that's really the reason why. So like land, if you just own and hold on to it, can go up in value tremendously. We have some land like that. We own like 25 lots that we bought for $3,700. They're worth about $40,000 today. And in another 20 years, they'll be worth $500,000 each. So there's 25 lots that are going to be worth $10 million by the time I'm 54 right now. By the time that I'm like about 70 or so, 70, 74, these lots are worth $10 million. Fantastic. It's a nice nest egg to have. But if I wanted the one downside of any active business is that if you want to retire, the income stops, right? That's it. Any active business, you're flipping houses. The moment that house is fixed and flipped and sold, you get a check, and that's it. You got to find the next house. The moment you wholesale a house, the moment you wholesale a piece of land, you can build that into a multiple 7-figure, 8-figure business. Fantastic. And many people do. But when you stop doing this eventually, then the income stops. So I'm looking generations further. We have a 17-year-old daughter that wants to get into family business, so she can continue doing that. But I'm also 54, so I'm transitioning in life a little bit from my outlook from active income to passive income. So the reason we do multifamily is 2 reasons. Number one, it gives us huge tax benefits to offset the other income. So in 2020, we had a 7-figure income, but because of a 7-figure depreciation we got from multifamily, we got a stimulus check, right? So we gave that stimulus check to the local food bank because it's kind of ridiculous to give me a stimulus check. But at the same time, we took it and then we gave it to the food bank. They had more use for it. So the point is, we're using the multifamily income in a 100% legal way to offset our active income from the other businesses that we have. And then also it's building up a tremendous value that over a lifetime is going to most likely go into the multiple 8-9 figures that we can live off. First of all, the cash flow of that is tremendous. So if we ever, I don't know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, ever want to go and say, you know what, I'm done. I'm just going to enjoy a few years of my life doing nothing. We can without having to eat the money we made. Like there's in the financial industry, the financial advice industry, they teach what I call the pile of money theory. And the pile of money theory is basically says like, earn what you can earn in your job, put 10% away, put it into a mutual fund, have it grow. And then once you retire, we hope that your pile of money is big enough that if you take 4% off the top every single year, that it outlasts you, or that it lasts until you die. So I'm also part of a group, a coaching group. It's a mastermind kind of coaching group. I'm a participant that is a bunch of futurists and longevity experts. I got nothing to do with that. I'm the idiot in the group, just paying attention to what they're saying. But what I'm learning is that there's a reasonable chance that anyone that's in good health today, that's below the age of, let's say, 65 or 70, can actually live to 120. Because we're about 5 to 10 years from actually being able to stop aging and potentially even reverse aging. So I'm looking at that and I was like, the pile of money theory doesn't work. You can't just say like, hey, I'm 65, I have $1 million in the account, which most people don't have anyway, but I have $1 million in my 401k. Let me take a little bit of that off, and with that, it's going to go down. And since statistically only going to live until like 85, it's going to last me until I'm 85. Well, what if you live until you're 120? What's going to happen? You're screwed, right? I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to live in that scenario. I want to live in a world that I used my pile of money to buy assets that spit out cash flow for the rest of my life, whether I live 80 years, 100 years, 120 or 150 years, right? That spit out cash flow to the degree that I have a life of abundance, where I'm also busy a little bit because I don't want to do nothing when I'm 80 or 90 years old. I want to manage these properties still, or at least manage the assets, have like a couple of hours still something to do. And at the same time, I can, I built and lasting value, because here's the thing. The asset's going to continue to go up in value. The cash flow is going to continue to go up. And at the same time, I get to continue to enjoy that cash flow while the asset value is actually continue to going up. So it's like I get my cake and I get to eat it too, versus if you have in a bunch of stock market money, you take money off. Well, that money it's off. It can't keep growing anymore. You're taking it off the plate. But I'm only taking the cash flow from a multifamily property. The multifamily property itself, if it's managed well, continues to go up. Rents go up, like profits go up, and the value goes up. So therefore, I've basically created my cash machine to move money into the asset classes that I can live off forever, and that's the plan. That's why.
Okay, so fundamentally, you've got the cash engine of which is basically any business model, but in your case, land flipping. I look at land flipping or wholesaling in general, not really as real estate investment, but as any vehicle to create money. So you have a financial generation machine. And then the real estate investment side of it, as I see it, is the single family, multifamily, right? You're picking an asset, you're investing in it. And in your case, you're looking for cash flow also and the future gain of it. So it's buy and hold to some extent. Yeah. That's the basics, right?
Yeah, like the main issue with multifamily, single family, is that usually it's very hard to do this without money. So,
well, that's what I want to get to. So the land flipping and wholesaling you can do without money, and you can dive into that as a vehicle, as an entry point to get into things. Single and multi are a totally different investment strategy. My question, especially for the people that are active in real estate, is why single or multifamily versus any sort of commercial or any other vehicle? Why specifically that? Because all of them have tax benefits, but they also all have a litany of other nuances.
Yeah, so it's very simple that multifamily is, I just simply look at that. We're one of the few countries, Western countries, that are still growing because of immigration. Legal, non-legal, doesn't matter. I'm not going to get political, doesn't matter. Point is, people are moving to this country. America is the land of opportunity. And we were 330 million people just a few years ago. Now we're 335 million or more. We are continuing to grow. We are expected to continue to grow, and people need a place to live. So people don't always need a place to have an office, as we saw during COVID. People don't always need a place as an Airbnb. Airbnb became really popular, and all of a sudden it's crashing again, right? It became an oversupply and so on. People always need a place to live. And we position ourselves right in the middle, not class A, because you have a recession. People move out of class A to class B. You have and not on the bottom either, because you're dealing with a clientele that is less than desirable to deal with. So you deal in the middle, that you have a boom, people upgrade. And if you have a boom, people upgrade. And if you have a recession, people go from B to like B minus or C, go to U. So we identified that as just being the most recession proof kind of model, the most recession proof kind of segment of the market. And we also like self-storage and RV parks and things like that. So eventually we're going to probably get into that too. But we start with one asset class, and again, goes back to the focus. You cannot reasonably become the expert in 5 different areas in a matter of a short period of time. You got to focus on one, become known for it, build the investor group behind you, et cetera, and that's what we've done in multifamily. Does it mean we won't expand from that at some point of time? No, I mean, we're also looking to build ground up. We already know land. We already know how to get land. So one of the deals I'm involved in right now is an entitlement deal for something like 18 acres that we can put potentially up to 300 apartment units on there. I'm probably not going to build the apartment units yet because that's not my expertise, but I'm the land guy. I know how to land, guess. I know how to value land. I know how to get the land. So we have this land. We've made an offer right now. By the time of broadcasting, we probably know if it's out or not. And then we'll go to the brought in a partner that's very experienced in that entitlement part. Together, we're going to go basically get the city approved on a plan and then sell that to a developer. Right there is a multi-million-dollar profit game. But again, so there's different things that I'm still have on my horizon that I still want to do, but it's the focus kind of thing. And multifamily, we realized we believe is the most recession proof of them all, because this is more of a long-term safety and stability game. Like this is not like on land. It happens every day that you get a $50,000 property for $10,000 and you sell it for 30. That's a 200% return. Like I've gotten a deal that I bought for $5,000, sold it for $56,000 with a $6,500 down payment. So I paid $5,000 for it, but I got a down payment of $6,500 and then extended set of financing for the remaining on it with almost $500 a month in monthly payments for the next 20 years. I have no money in the deal, and I'm making $120,000 in profits over the next 20 years on that deal. That's crazy returns. That's a 2,000% return. That's not over here. Over here is put your money into something that will maintain its value, that will go up in value, that is recession proof, that is safe, and that spits out really good cash flow over the long term, and that once I'm retired and ready, can be taken care of forever. And if I would have picked office, I would have lost a lot of money because office value is obviously cratered. Retail, Amazon is taking everyone's lunch away. Retail cratered. So there's so many different segments in real estate, and that is just the one that to this day we believe is the most recession-proof of them all.
I love that. Great explanation. Okay, last question on real estate investment. You mentioned land flipping, cash generation engine. Teaching people how to do it is a legacy project for you because you like it. You like to show other people how to do it. Also generates a bunch of revenue. Investing in multifamily and single family. You mentioned that you had a bunch that you did independently as your own portfolio. You also mentioned that you had some syndication. Yeah. Why do you invest personally, and why do you do the syndications, and what's the delineation between the two?
So ideally, I want to own as much on my own as possible because I hate selling real estate. I love owning real estate. I mean, I love flipping land, but even some pieces of land, I know I should have not sold. I made 50 grand or 100 grand, but the long-term values have gone up like this. So I should have not sold them. But particularly on improved real estate, my holding horizon ideally is forever. But if you come across a $10 million piece of real estate, you need to put down, in today's market, you need to put down $3.5 million. I don't always have $3.5 million to put down. So therefore, but I love the deal, and the deal cash flows, and the deal has great upside. I think it's a fantastic deal. So I'm basically saying like, hey guys, who wants to invest with me? Like friends and family, we're doing 506Bs, so we can't advertising for it. So this is only people that already know us. So this is not a pitch here for that. We invest in those, and they get to come along on the ride, get a really good return on their money. And I even there developed a model that right now, basically, I do it with investors because I like helping investors, but also because we have to. Very simply, it's a win-win. I couldn't do the deal without the investors. The investors couldn't do the deal without me. So it's a win-win for both of us. With that said, what the model that I've developed is a 3-1 model. What that means is like if I get 3 deals syndicated, so 3 $10 million deals, I get it for 10, put $3.5–4 million down, investor money. We put a bunch of our own money into every one of these deals too, because it's my way to invest in my own deals, right? I'm just like, it's not just, I don't have, in every single deal that I have money in, and significant money, not just 10 grand. I'm talking about 6 figures, multiple 6 figures, and so on, right? So I'm putting my own money where my mouth is into those deals. And then the goal is, let's say 5 years later, we sell these properties for $14 million. So the investors usually get 70% of the profits. I get 30% of the profits. Great. Well, that's $3 million for the investors, $1 million for me. Good. That was worth it. First of all, it's a great investment for me. I did all the work. I underwrote it. I paid the PPM. I did all the stuff. I managed the thing. I hired the person to manage the property. I hired the asset manager. I hired the property manager. I do everything. So I think I've earned 30% of the profits. And the investors just basically invested. And at the end, they're getting 70% of the profits, which equals to usually like a significant double-digit per year return for them. And then what happens is, though, if I now sell 2 of those, I usually can afford to take the third one, and instead of selling it, I'm putting it on the market. I'm getting bids. I identify what is the high bid. So I'm basically going to my investors and say like, hey, we're going to put this on the market and we're going to get $14 million for it. But instead of me selling it at $14 million, I'm gonna buy you guys out at a $14 million valuation. So now the investors need to come. Now I'm taking the profits from the first 2 deals, rolling it into that deal, adding some additional money of my own. With that, I'm able to buy the investors out, and now I own this thing long term.
I love that, man. So basically, I heard syndications so that you can do more deals in the name of getting more of your own deals personally.
Right.
I love that, man. That's awesome.
And I don't make it a secret, because at the end of the day, it's like, it's the same thing. We could sell all 3 and then we all make a bunch of money, but then I would take that money and buy my own deal with it afterwards anyway. So I might as well keep one of the deals instead of, but we already put so much money and effort into it. But again, the deal will be put on the market, will be priced at top market value. And at that value, I buy them out. So the investors, it's the exact same thing. To us, it's just that instead of having to find another deal, we get to keep one that we already have. And it's an easier operation from that point of view.
That's awesome. Jack Bosch, I appreciate you carving out time. It's great to hear your take and your strategy in real estate. I'm always interested in that, but I think there's lots of takeaways for all types of business models across the board. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Where do you want to point people? If people want to find out more about Jack Bosch, where do they go? B-O-S-C-H.
Yeah. So if you want to know, right, if you want to, like, a few places, the first thing, I got a podcast too. It's called The Jack Bosch Show. It's purposely named like that because I don't want to be about something in specific. It's a lot about real estate, but we're also interviewing just great entrepreneurs and so on. So it's The Jack Bosch Show. But the other thing is, if you want to learn about the land business and how to do deals from home and make same or better profits than the house flippers, just without dealing with the houses and with lower competition, then you can simply go to landprofitfun.com. Fun like F-U-N, like having fun, like landprofitfun.com. It gets you to a place where you can download a 30-day blueprint, a 30-day step-by-step guide on how this works and how to set it up. That's one good place to go. And again, I also have a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel is called Jack Bosch. On the YouTube channel, there's like a 7-part video series that also lays out the basics on that. And then if, obviously that's the best places.
Love it, Jack. Thanks again, man. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking out this Beyond a Million episode. You know, it occurred to me just now that I never tell people to leave comments, and that's probably really stupid. I should tell you to leave a comment. So if you have any questions, or you liked the show, or you hated the show, it would be awesome if you would leave a comment. It makes a big difference in helping other people find it. Leave a comment below.